All right, Algebra 1, we're working on lesson 4.8, and we're talking about rate, time, and distance problems. These are going to get a little complex, so stick with me. The essential question is, can you solve word problems involving uniform motion? The first thing that is assumed that you know is distance is equal to rate times time. Time will always be in hours, so if you get a minute, 10 minutes, you have to do 1/6 because there are 60 minutes in an hour. So what is the distance traveled in 6 hours at 60 kilometers per hour? Well, if my rate is 60 and my time is 6 hours, 60, well, let's go ahead and set this up as kilometers per hour. In 6 hours, notice that these cancel out very nicely. So the distance would be 360 kilometers. What is the average rate of speed if 275 kilometers are traveled in 5.5 hours? Distance equals to rate times time. Well, what is the average rate? So it looks like we're looking for the speed. If 275 kilometers are traveled in 5.5 hours. All right, so notice I have to divide each side through by 5.5 hours. What I do to one side, I do to the other. And notice my rate is equal to, 275 divided by 5.5 is 50 kilometers per hour. All right, we're going to work on a word problem. These word problems get a little bit complex, but remember that we could set up charts. But I always encourage my students to draw a picture first. So it's talking about Mark. Mark drove his car to the garage at 48 kilometers per hour and then walked back home. So notice he has his home and he has the garage. I won't put a roof on the garage. And notice he's driving his car there. I'm an impeccable artist. And he's driving his car there at 48 kilometers per hour. And then he decides to walk home. So notice Mark walks home back at 8 kilometers per hour. The drive took 10 minutes less than the walk home. Well, if the drive took 10 minutes less, I know that I could set up rate times time is equal to the distance. And we're always going to use charts because they're super handy. And notice this last column right here is going to be what we use to compare. Now let's look. We're either going to add them, subtract them, make them equal. In this case, if he's driving there and walking home, isn't he traveling the exact same distance? So couldn't I make box number 1 equal to box number 2 because it's the exact same distance? Okay, there's going to be a couple scenarios, but our scenario is this. So we'll call this to and from the garage. We know that his rate to the garage was 48 kilometers per hour. We know his rate from the garage was 8 kilometers per hour. And then it does tell us that the drive took 10 minutes less than the walk home. So if I call my walk home T, I need to call my ride there 10 minutes less. But remember, we just talked about how 10 minutes in 1 hour is equal to 1/6. So I'm not going to call that T minus 10. I'm going to call that T minus 1/6. So when I multiply these, I get 48 times T minus 1/6. And when I multiply straight across here, I get 8t. And now I can just take these two distances, 48 times t minus 1 over 6, and make it equal to 8t. Well, let's distribute here. 48 times t, 48 times 1/6 is 48t minus, well, 48 divided by 6 is 8, and that's going to equal 8t. I got to get the 48 over by subtracting 48t to each side. And I have negative numbers, but those negatives I see are going to cancel out. So when I divide each side by negative 40, I get t is equal to, well, this negative 8 over 40 reduced is 1 over 5. So let's go back to the question. If this right here is 1 over 5, I have to convert that to hours. Or in this case, we'll go ahead and convert it to minutes and hours. So I know that there are 60 minutes. So if I multiply each side by 12, I know that this is 12 minutes. Well, so my question literally says, how far, I'm going to highlight it so you can see it. How far did Mark walk and for how long? Well, I know that he walked for 12 minutes. So let's go ahead and answer the question. He walked for 12 minutes because this is what I got. And then it says for how long. That was how long. How far did he walk? Well, if I take my calculator and I multiply here, I'm going to highlight again so you can see. I'm going to multiply 8 times 1/5 because that's what the distance is. I know that I get 1.6 kilometers per hour. So wow, there's a lot of information here, but this is a great practice question for setting up a chart.